The Beijing Auto Show this year is the largest auto show in human history. 380,000 square meters, 17 halls, 1,451 vehicles, 181 world premieres. Tesla didn't show up for the third time in a row. And frankly, after what I'm about to walk you through, you'll understand why. They knew. So let's get into it. 10 cars, 10 reasons American automakers are publicly fine and privately terrified. And one show that just rewrote the rules of what a car is supposed to be in 2026. We start at the top because there is no point pretending. The Yangwang U9 Xtreme. This is the BYD Halo car, and what they brought to Beijing is the limited Dawn Moment edition. Black and gold, 30 units worldwide, hand-finished with traditional Chinese lacquer techniques, and gold powder dusted into the paint at a micrometer level. That's the cosmetic part. Here are the numbers. 3,000 horsepower, 4 electric motors, one at each wheel, each one putting down 555 kilowatts, 1,200 volts of architecture. Yes, 1,200, making it the first production car on Earth to ride on that kind of voltage. Top speed verified at 496 kilometers per hour, 308 miles per hour. Read that twice. The U9 Xtreme is, as of this moment, officially the fastest production car ever built. Bugatti could not match this. Koenigsegg could not match this. The number does not exist anywhere else. And it didn't just hit that number on a runway. It lapped the Nürburgring Nordschleife in 6 minutes and 59 seconds, the first electric production car to break 7 minutes. In the U.S. market, this car will never legally touch a public road. The tariffs alone would put it at $500,000 after the import dance. The base U9 starts around $236,000 in China, engineering witchcraft from a country that 15 years ago was building rebadged Daewoo's. Detroit hasn't built a number this big since the Hennessy Venom GT, and that was a kit car for billionaires. This is a regular catalog item from the company that also makes your taxi. But the U9 Xtreme is the exotic. The next car is the one that should actually scare every German engineer who works in Stuttgart or Ingolstadt. The Denza Z, drop top, 4 seats. Designed by Wolfgang Egger, the same Wolfgang Egger who used to design Audis, Alfa Romeos, and Lamborghinis, now working for BYD. The body is carbon fiber. The roof is a soft top retractable that folds neatly into the rear deck. Over 1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. That puts it in Rimac Nevera territory. But the Nevera costs $2.5 million, and only 34 people on the planet have one. The Denza Z, when it goes on sale, is expected to land in the $60,000 to $73,000 range in China. I'll let that sit. 1,000 horsepower convertible with a Wolfgang Egger silhouette, carbon fiber bodywork, and the same Daisus M magnetic suspension system from the U9 for the price of a fully loaded Ford F-150 Lariat. BYD is launching it in Europe first, at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in July, before they even sell it at home. They're launching in Europe first because they know the brand legitimacy battle isn't won in Shanghai, it's won in the UK paddock, where every Porsche owner in attendance is going to walk past the Denza Z, do the math, and immediately call their financial advisor. In the US market, this is blocked, period. The combination of tariffs and the de facto ban on Chinese passenger vehicles means it will never wear a US plate. North of the border, however, things get interesting. Canadian regulations have flex points that don't exist down south. And once these cars are out in Europe, the import pathway gets quieter, faster, and cheaper than people realize. Now let's talk about the car that's actually going to take BMW's lunch money, the Xpeng GX. This is a 6-seat full-size SUV that, on paper, makes a Range Rover P530 look like it was designed during the Bush administration. 207 inches long, 4 self-developed Turing AI chips delivering 3,000 TOPS of computing power. For context, that's more raw inference horsepower than a small data center had 10 years ago, and it's all dedicated to driving the car. Bosch-built steer-by-wire, no mechanical linkage between the steering wheel and the front wheels, just wires and AI. Aviation-grade 6-layer redundancy across steering, braking, power, drive, communication, and door unlocking. The pure electric version runs an 800-volt silicon carbide platform with 5C supercharging and a 110 kilowatt-hour battery, 466 miles of range on a single charge. The extended range version pairs a 1.5-liter generator with a smaller battery and posts a combined range of 985 miles, almost 1,000 miles between fill-ups in an SUV. The interior has captain's chairs in all 3 rows, a built-in fridge, doors that close themselves silently, front passenger seat that reclines 180 degrees flat for a nap, AI-dimming privacy glass, and the optional paint, they call it Kunlun Cloud Realm, is laid down in 15 layers, each one 230 micrometers thick, on a hand-painted finish that you'd normally only see on a Rolls-Royce. The starting price is $58,000. 58. The closest American equivalent, say a Cadillac Escalade IQ, starts in the high 80s and reaches 130 by the time you check the boxes Xpeng gives you for free. This is the part where Detroit's PR department starts sweating. If the GX is the BMW killer, the next one is the Mercedes S-Class killer, the Nio ES9. Nio's flagship executive SUV debuted at Beijing as the culmination of 11 years of development, with 43 so-called industry-first technologies built into a single chassis, over 5.3 meters long, longer than a Mercedes GLS, longer than an Escalade. Use Nio's Skyride fully active suspension, which doesn't just respond to the road, it reads it ahead of time using the car's sensor suite, then preloads the dampers and air springs before the wheel ever touches the bump. The 900-volt architecture lets it accept ridiculous fast charging power, and Nio is the only brand on Earth that combines that with a battery swap network. You pull into a station, the car drives itself onto a platform, the empty battery drops out, a full one slots in, and you drive away in under 5 minutes. Faster than filling up a Suburban. They're building a 3,400-kilometer battery swap corridor along the ancient Silk Road this year, stationed every 87 kilometers. Try doing that in a Lucid Air. Pricing on the ES9 hasn't been finalized as of this recording, but the existing ES8 starts around $56,000 US, and the ES9 sits above it. We're talking about a $70,000 S-Class competitor with active suspension that pre-reads the road, a 5-minute battery swap network, 43 industry firsts, and an interior that has Mercedes designers calling their headhunters in Stuttgart asking what's available. Here's where it gets unhinged. The Xiaomi Vision GT. Yes, Xiaomi. The phone company, the vacuum cleaner company, the rice cooker company. They built a hypercar concept for the Gran Turismo video game franchise, debuted it in Barcelona earlier this year, and brought the physical model to Beijing as a statement of intent. 4 motors, 900-volt silicon carbide platform, over 1,000 kilowatts, roughly 1,360 horsepower. Top speed over 350 kilometers per hour. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in the 1-second range. Drag coefficient of 0.29 on a car with a wing this aggressive. 1.2 tons of downforce at speed, more than a Le Mans hypercar. This is a concept, not a production model, but Xiaomi has already shipped over 39,000 SU7 sedans in a single month. So when the company that just out-engineered Porsche on its first try says they're exploring a hypercar, and they say it from a stage in Beijing with a finished physical model and verified aero numbers, you take it seriously. American automakers don't have a Xiaomi. They don't have a tech giant that decided one Tuesday morning to start building cars and immediately produced a sedan that out-handles a Taycan. That's not a thing that exists in Dearborn or Auburn Hills. The next one is not a car, it's a 6x6 off-road truck the size of a Hummer EV that, when you park it, opens up its rear hatch and launches a 2-seat electric aircraft straight into the sky. The Xpeng AeroHT land aircraft carrier. The mothership is a 5.5-meter range extender truck with a 6-wheel drive setup and a differential lock for actual off-road work. The aircraft inside is a 6-rotor eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing, with a 2-seat carbon fiber cockpit. You drive to your destination, park, the rear opens, the aircraft unfolds and rises out, and you fly the last leg. They have over 7,000 pre-orders globally already. The Guangzhou factory is built. Trial production rolled off the line in March. Mass production is locked in for this year. The price target is under $280,000 US, roughly the cost of a high-spec Range Rover SV autobiography, but instead of leather and a Meridian sound system, you get a personal aircraft. The US market reaction to this is essentially silence. The FAA is moving at FAA speed. The Chinese government has carved out specific low-altitude flight corridors and is fast-tracking the regulatory framework. By 2027, there will be people in Dubai and Riyadh flying these things over morning traffic, while Americans are still arguing about whether eVTOLs should require a pilot's license. Let's come back to the ground for the next one, because this one is pure design seduction. The Avatr Vision Xpectra. Avatr is Chang'an-backed, CATL-backed, and uses Huawei's Chang'an ADS5 driver assistance suite. The Xpectra is a concept, a 5.84-meter grand tourer with no B-pillars, full coach doors that open in opposing directions to reveal an interior that looks like the inside of a high-end yacht, a glass roof that runs from the windshield all the way to the trunk, and a silicon carbide motor with reported efficiency of 99.1%. The interior uses inflatable translucent seats and 3D knitted surface materials. There's a panoramic prismatic cabin, Avatr's term, not mine, and a pulsating light vortex on the dashboard that responds to the driver's emotional state via biometric sensing. The lead designer, Nader Faghizadeh, runs Avatr's design center in Munich and was poached from BMW. He's said publicly that working at a Chinese brand gives him creative freedom that the German manufacturers no longer offer. Read that last sentence again. The designers are leaving Germany, they're going to China. Because at Avatr, when they sketch a four-door car with no B-pillars and pillarless coach doors, the company says, build it, instead of we'll workshop it for the 2032 model year. The Vision Xpectra isn't going on sale next month, it's a design study. But every line on it is showing up in Avatr production cars within 24 months. Including, by the way, in models that Canadian importers are already lining up for. Number 8 is the Zeekr 8X Yaoying. Zeekr is the Geely premium brand, and the 8X is a tri-motor plug-in hybrid SUV that puts out 1,400 horsepower. 1,400 in an SUV. This isn't a Hellcat. This isn't a Trackhawk. Those cars are 10 years old, and they made 700 horsepower with a supercharger the size of a coffee table. The 8X Yaoying does 1,400 with a 2.0-liter turbo and 3 electric motors on a 900-volt architecture, with Zeekr's own torque vectoring control system distributing power across all 4 wheels in real time. And it's built on the SEAS Super Hybrid architecture, and it's already on pre-sale in China. Zeekr is also bringing this to the Middle East next year. The US market is, again, blocked. But the larger point is this. While Stellantis is killing the Hemi 5.8 and replacing it with a Hurricane Inline 6 because emissions regulations forced their hand, China is building 1,400 horsepower hybrid SUVs that pass every emissions test on Earth. The performance gap isn't closing, it already closed. We're now in the era where it's reversing. Number 9, and this is the one Apple should have built, the next generation Aito M9. Aito is the Huawei series partnership, and the new M9 is the flagship of Huawei's HEMA alliance. It debuts with 6 Huawei in-house developed LiDAR sensors, 6 feeding the Chang'an ADS smart driving system, which now supports full coverage urban autonomous navigation, point-to-point assisted driving, and seamless highway-to-city handoff. Pre-orders open the day of the show. Huawei's HEMA alliance now spans 5 core brands, plus 3 new Jing series, brands launched at this Beijing show, plus partnerships with Audi, Toyota, BYD, Nissan, and Mercedes. Yes, Mercedes is using Huawei tech in their China market cars, because they had to. Tesla has no presence at the show. Tesla's full self-driving is frankly embarrassing compared to what Huawei is now putting on the road in production cars. Aito M9 is the most expensive car in the Huawei Alliance lineup, and it's the car that mainland Chinese executives are now buying instead of S-classes and 7 Series. That sentence, 10 years ago, would have been a joke. Today, it's the actual market reality, and Mercedes-Benz China sales are reflecting it. And number 10, to round this off, is the 4-seat Yangwang U9 Xtreme edition. This one is the Maybach killer. The U8L is BYD's flagship luxury off-roader, 5.0 6.4 meters long, 1,180 horsepower from 4 motors, a hybrid powertrain combining a 2-liter turbo range extender with an enormous LFP battery, and total range over 1,200 kilometers. The new Ding Kong 4-seat edition is positioned head-to-head against the Maybach GLS 600. The exterior gets an exclusive ink black paint with micron-scale pearl crystal that creates a jade-like depth in sunlight. Interior gets 4 executive seats with what BYD calls approximately 5.3 cubic meters of cabin space, dedicated to 2 rows. The current 6-seat U8L is priced around $190,000. The Maybach GLS 600 starts at $175,000 and reaches $250,000 by the time you option it. The U8L outpowers it, outranges it, has tank turn capability, the wheels can spin in opposite directions to rotate the car in place, and floats on water in an emergency because BYD built the body sealed enough to function as a temporary boat. Maybach owners do not have any of these things. They just have a 3-pointed star and a base price. Here is what just happened in Beijing. Plainly, 10 cars rolled out on one stage that collectively represent more raw automotive innovation than the entire Detroit Auto Show, the LA Auto Show, and the Chicago Auto Show have produced in 5 years combined. A 3,000 horsepower electric supercar that's officially the fastest production car ever made. A 1,000 horsepower convertible at S-Class money. A flagship SUV at $58,000 that outtechs a Range Rover. A battery swap S-Class competitor with active road reading suspension. A 1,400 horsepower hybrid family hauler. A flying SUV with a factory and 7,000 pre-orders, a concept car designed by ex-BMW talent who left Munich for Shanghai, and a Maybach competitor that floats. Tesla didn't show up. Ford and GM brought concepts that, frankly, looked underwhelming next to all of this. Stellantis is firing engineers, and in the US market, by federal policy, the import door on these cars is welded shut. If this opened your eyes the way it should have, give the video a thumbs up. That's how this channel keeps showing you what the rest of the auto press won't. And stick around, because the next one is going to dig into exactly which of these cars Canadian buyers can already start the import paperwork on. Beijing 2026 wasn't just a car show. It was the moment the conversation ended.